Hello and welcome to India News TV. I'm Karthik Singh and today we are going to be joined by Dr. Christian Rowan, who is the Queensland's Member of Parliament from Morgill constituency. He's also Queensland's Shadow Minister for Education and Arts. Today we'll be asking him a range of developmental projects which he has brought in the Morgill constituency, his ideas on the effective rollout of COVID-19 vaccine, and what he thinks is a better way for the multicultural communities to play an active role in taking Queensland and Australia forward. Here's a listen. Dr. Rowan, thank you for the opportunity to sit down and chat with you.
Thanks very much for the opportunity.
The interaction. I'll begin by asking you about your journey to the politics. I mean, being a physician or medical doctor yourself, how did you end up into the politics?
Well, I'd always had an interest in politics, and even when I was at university, I'd been involved in some of the political clubs which were on campus at that stage. And but as I went through and got my medical degree, I sort of went into medico-politics, and so I was an AMA president and a president of Rural Doctors Association, as well as working in hospitals and completing my specialist training. So I'd always had a strong interest, I guess, in good public policy and good public policy which can provide benefits for local people, but also in Queensland and across Australia as well. And so an opportunity arises, and I've been now in the Queensland Parliament. This is my third term, so I was first elected in 2015 and then re-elected in 2017 and 2020, and it's been great so far.
What are the kind of things which you think is sort of, making people vote for you every time? What are the kind of things? What are your key achievements?
Well, we try and be very accountable to our local residents, and what I mean by that is when they contact us about particular issues, we either speak to them on the phone or get them in and try and sort of resolve the issues that they may have, and whether that relates to the state or even to local government or federal government, we'll liaise with our other elected representative colleagues to try and get solutions for them. So I think that's one of the reasons that people vote for people, because if they're accountable and they follow through with what they're going to do, then that builds a level of trust in the communities. We've been very passionate locally here about trying to drive solutions for traffic congestion, championing an integrated road and public transport plan to ease traffic congestion. We continue to fight for better infrastructure for our schools, and certainly there's no doubt that we need another high school in our area, as well as a further investment in our classrooms and libraries and other facilities, and also easing cost of living pressures as well. That's very important because in the current economic times there's a lot of stress on people when they're paying their electricity bills and water, petrol and all of the other consumables in life, and the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly created a lot of stress for people when it comes to jobs and small business.
Dr. Rowan, now since you carry a very diverse set of experience in different fields, I mean being a medical doctor as I just mentioned, and also now as a Shadow Minister for Education and Arts, surely the pandemic has led to a lot of destabilization in these respective sectors. I mean when it comes to unemployment and also a lot of other debt problems. What are your analysis and key proposals to the government when it comes to sort of helping these sectors to revive?
Well, as you say, I mean, COVID-19 has been a very challenging set of circumstances. Obviously, we've had the health pandemic, but the economic consequences have been profound, not only here in Queensland, but across Australia and internationally. So all governments need to be doing as much as they possibly can to protect jobs, to support business, and to ensure that our economy continues to grow, and that's important not only locally here. Certainly we've had significant feedback from businesses and those who've lost their jobs or businesses that are under stress. There's been various packages that have been released, and the Federal Morrison Coalition government has led the way in trying to provide support through JobKeeper and other packages, and the state government has done some lifting. They probably need to do a lot more, and we're certainly going to see that over the next few months that will be needed. So I continue to fight for our local businesses, for those who need their jobs protected, for businesses that need to be supported. And one of the things that we encourage is locals to buy and shop locally, because that supports our local businesses. But on the education front, as you alluded to before, I'm Shadow Minister for Education. Again, in our schools, we need a greater infrastructure investment. I've been in touch with universities and a number of the Vice-Chancellors, and certainly with overseas students not being able to come into Queensland, and we understand why that's the case. They're certainly finding some of the pressures within their institutions. And Australia's had a great collaborative relationship with India. We're two great democracies and we share a lot of common things. We fight out sport on the sporting field when we're playing cricket, but many students who would normally come from India haven't been able to come, throughout this time, and we understand, why that's the case because of the pandemic. But our sort of rich ties between Australia, Queensland and India will continue to foster and to grow that, and education is one of those great ones that we can continue to progress, for years to come.
That's great, sir. And my next question is going to be on the COVID-19 vaccine rollout plan, which is going to start soon in Australia. What are the kind of proposals and suggestions by your side to the government when it comes to the vaccine rollout to help it be achieved effectively and efficiently?
Well, certainly there's going to be a lot of complexity of rolling out the vaccination program, right across Australia, and the federal government's working with the various state jurisdictions to work out how that's going to take place. And so vaccinating as many people who are eligible is very important, because then we get that herd immunity to try and deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And then by further controlling that then allows, for our economy to get going, to businesses not to have to deal with all of the restrictions that they've needed to deal with. So there are a number of vaccines which will be on the market, and the process of that, the complexity is quite large, but certainly via general practice and via our public hospitals, those processes are now being put in place to how that's going to work to make sure that it gets all the way through Australia, and particularly in a very decentralised state like Queensland. So from an opposition perspective, we work with the government to say we understand that protecting people's health and ensuring as many eligible people are vaccinated is very important, and that will certainly allow our economy and jobs to continue into the future and be protected, and to get back to some normal arrangements as far as life's concerned. So it's been very challenging, and I certainly appreciate all of our communities, whether it be the Indian community or other multicultural communities, because again they've done a terrific amount of work in trying to control the spread of this virus by complying with all of the public health directives and all of the things which have had to do. So the immense sacrifices that have been made by many people in Queensland, across Australia and internationally in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic, I mean, I really salute the efforts that people have put in to try and deal with this.
Dr. Rowan, one of the things which you have always stood for is the collaborative approach to fight the problems being faced by the transportation sector. Now, what are the kind of things which always encourages you? What are the kind of problems you see in the transportation sector in Brisbane as whole, and what are the solutions you have to it?
Well, certainly there's no doubt that traffic congestion in Brisbane particularly has become more problematic over the last 20 to 30 years. And again, we've seen a growing population, particularly in Brisbane. So we need to have that integrated road and public transport plans, and particularly here in the western suburbs, because where I am in Moggill and in the western suburbs, we've got particular issues. We've got a large city growing out at Springfield, growth in the Centenary suburbs, growth out here into the electorate of Moggill and over in the adjacent electorates of Maywar and Cooper and other areas. So really having that collaborative approach between all levels of government, the federal government, the state government and the local government, to ensure that solutions are designed, and that in some cases will need widening of roads or additional roads, but it means what do we do when it comes to buses and trains and the connectivity between those, of ensuring that people can move as easily as they can around our city. And why that's important is because they get home safer and sooner, but it also means if they're not sitting in traffic, they're either enjoying some of their leisure time or they're getting to work, they're contributing to the economy, and all of those things are important.
Now, you're also associated with the multicultural communities, in the promotion and also understanding them in some way. Tell us a bit about your involvement with the Indian community, being a multicultural media organization, and what are the kind of things you expect from your voters as far as Indians are concerned, and Indian community in general?
Well, I'm a former Shadow Minister for Communities, and so I've been able to go to a number of events held by the Indian community and many other multicultural communities over many years. And what I would sort of say is, contributing to the rich tapestry here in Brisbane and across Queensland and Australia, it's been fantastic to see that from the Indian community, but many other multicultural communities as well. And my view is that really strengthens us all as Queenslanders and Australians, because we can all learn from each other. There are great things that can be contributed. It's great food as well, and sharing all of those things that I talked about before when it comes to our sporting heritage and competition. So from that side, it's been really terrific as an elected representative to be a part of that, and particularly as a former Shadow Minister for Communities as well.
May I ask you, what's your favourite Indian food?
Oh, look, I've got tandoori chicken. I love tandoori chicken, but look, I love all Indian food. It's absolutely fantastic. Yes. And we have many great restaurants in Brisbane, and many that I've been to over the time as well. Yeah,
indeed, sir. And my last question is going to be, being a multicultural news organization, so what are the kind of things you expect from us in helping you put your message across to the audience effectively?
Well, I think it's a two-way street, so to speak. So there's things that can be fed back and to elected representatives about the particular issues that may be being experienced in the Indian community, and that might be things particularly within Brisbane or Queensland, or other things that are happening internationally, so that we are well informed when we go into the Parliament and we contribute to debates on legislation or committees or other things. So I think that, and then also being able to communicate other messages out as to what's happening, whether it be in health or in education, or important bits of information that need to be communicated out to particular communities. So I think that's the great responsibility of media organisations, to be able to be a conduit into us, and then to be able to allow us to be able to communicate those messages out. And in politics, despite people thinking it's always there's always combative, there is a lot of sort of collaboration and bipartisanship about things, and certainly when it comes to the COVID-19 aspects, I think everyone wants to keep people safe, that they're complying with all of the health directives and the information around that, and if we can do that together, which we have been doing together, then certainly that allows us to get back on track and get back to the normal arrangements of our life before all this occurred at the beginning of 2020.
Dr. Rowan, a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Talking to India News.
Thank you. The India News TV organisation is incredibly important. Having diversity of culture in our media organisations means that key messages can get out to particular communities, and also that elected representatives like myself can also be informed as to what's happening out in those communities on the ground. So it's very important that if you haven't subscribed, that you do subscribe. Terrific organisation, and certainly I've had the pleasure of meeting many of their key representatives.
Please help India News TV in bringing out to you more such informative content by liking our videos, putting your comments down in the comment section, and subscribing to our channel for latest updates.